like putting the cart before the horse. If you negotiate on something else, and then you say to the other side that, well, whatever we do, we change the Constitution if it's necessary. Because it begs the question, where did you get the authority in the first place to negotiate? If you're talking federal and you want it to be within a federal framework, I think the logical thing for the government to do is to change to a federal system first and then conclude the negotiation on that basis. I mean, if you go to MILF and say that we will give you this arrangement within a federal system, obviously it's in bad faith. Meaning you're promising something which is not, you are not sure of delivering.
Manolo, we have another text message here from one of our viewers. His name is Ash. Bakit di na lang ibalik ang Sulu Sultanate sa political arena?
Well, the political reality here is that the Sultanate is not anymore a political force, even among the Muslim. It's there as a part of the legal argument, for example, in the Sabah claim. But as a governance entity, I don't think even Taosugs, for example, recognize the Sultanate of Sulu as their leaders. There is already the ARMM, and there is the MNLF, and of course there is MILF. These are the entities that the Moro people are adhering to. But the Sultanate is there. It's still there, of course, but I don't know if it has that kind of a substantive political
Well, since the last Sultan died, there has been, it was a deliberate policy of the Philippine government not to recognize a new Sultan, and the heirs themselves have remained divided, unable to choose one of their own. Now, if we go to this map that what we were showing you, there are implications here. You were saying, in terms of this is we saw earlier that there is a historical basis to this territory in terms of theory, but in terms of reality, this expansion includes areas that are no longer dominated by Muslims. So, how is this supposed to work out? Does it mean that, for example, if the ARM does not expand by plebiscite, because there have been 3 previous plebiscites that have where the residents of the area, including Muslims, have declined to join the ARMM. So, who is to say that this will actually be successfully expanded?
Actually, that is the big question there. If you have the BGE as a concept, and then you require a plebiscite to establish it, and then the additional territories have a record of basically rejecting joining the ARMM, then the question there is, what would change their mind? From my point of view, I don't think it will fly. And so I think that from the point of view of government, they're losing nothing if you go through that process.
But this brings up an interesting implication. If this is the recognized historical ancestral domain, and regardless of whether anyone in the proposed expanded areas agrees or disagrees to join the BJE, the recognition by our government of ancestral domain would at the very least bring up the possibility of the BJE asking for some sort of compensation for these areas not being included in the BJE?
Well, those are the gray areas of the agreement, because it says there that there are 2 kinds of areas. The areas that are now colored there in the map, and those are the areas that are historically claimed as ancestral domain. And that the status of this second area is still to be determined through further negotiations. So that's a gray area. We don't know yet. It may be that there will be such an agreement on sharing of wealth from those areas.
So basically, it's a form of staking the claim of the future BJE government.
Yes, you can. From the point of view of my left, they won't lose anything there, because in the first place they come from nothing. So if there is a chance to get something out of those areas, I think they would approve, as they have approved the agreement.
Okay, we saw the elaborate time frame and the map, the chart that was put together by Bong Montesa, where it could get derailed at any point. It can get derailed at the Supreme Court now. If it passes the hurdle of the Supreme Court, it can get derailed at the plebiscite. It can get derailed at the level of a constituent assembly, or any other form of amending the Constitution. It can get derailed in 2010, it can get derailed in 2016. With all of that, all of those possibilities in mind, is there a particular significance to the paper itself, to the agreement formally being signed by our government and the MILF? That alone, is there any weight?
Well, there is for both sides, but it's different for each of them. From the MILF side, the main thing about the agreement is that there is an international impact of being recognized as a homeland, and then you have this agreement that it can talk to other nations. As I've said, it's just one step to independence.
Regardless of what's delivered on the ground. Yeah.
Whatever is the arrangement there, the main thing for them is that they can appear before the OIC, they can appear even before the UN, and as a state, they have the choice to determine their future. They can go independent, they can go autonomy, they can be part of a federal Philippines.
This would be on the level then of the recognition that was given to Palestine, for example, among the Islamic countries.
Or Kosovo.
And in fact, one reason there's animosity with the MNLF is it's only the MNLF that enjoys representation in the OIC. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so now you would have two organizations, or possibly the MNLF would be kicked out and the MILF to replace them?
Yeah, actually you're creating a dangerous situation there within the Moro community, because MNLF is not a party to this. It has a separate agreement, and many of the agreement, of the content of this particular BGA agreement actually overlaps the one with the MNLF. That's why there is a statement, I think, from the MNLF yesterday that ERMM should not be disturbed because it's already part of their own agreement.
Okay. We'll be getting to your question in just 1 minute, but the other side, this is what's to gain for the MNLF. Let's just finish the thought. MILF, what is the government's gain from simply signing this agreement? Well,
the strong suspicion there is they want the process to reach the charter change stage.
Okay.
At which point, the thing is not anymore the agreement, but the changing to a
of
system.
The entire political system for the entire country.
Not really that, but allowing a transition period. Remember, there's already a Presidential Consultative Commission proposal for a transition period to a federal system where the current president and possibly the prime minister is the powers of these two positions is concentrated with her.
So you're basically bluntly saying an extension for the
Yes, what I'm
president.
saying is that the charter agenda, the charter change agenda, is the government's agenda at this time, and not the peace process itself.
Okay, we have a question you were saying?
Yes, we have another text message from one of our viewers. His name is Manny. He asks, MILF has always rejected negotiating from framework of constitution. How else to make a peace deal with them?
Well, actually, that's true. But it's not incumbent on the MILF to negotiate from our constitution, the Philippine Constitution. It's incumbent on the government negotiator to negotiate from the Constitution framework.
But Mon, that's a sort of an apples and oranges argument. One side being put forward by the government is precisely if they are negotiating from an entirely different perspective, you sort of have to think out of the box to reach a real...
Precisely. That's why the Hong Kong solution, for example, came up. You don't mention the Constitution at all. You go directly to specific points of unities. As for the government, it should be within the constitutional framework, these points of unity.
Yes, we have a question here from Yaniza.
Hello. There was this issue before during the previous election that there was some changes made to the results of the voters' result during the last election. It was also raised that our current president has a large or great number of votes from the ARMM region. So if the ARM region will be greater or larger, expanded rather, does this mean that the current administration would have power under for the next election, the current there would be more voters that would be for Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo if this would be approved?
Okay, because under the timeline that we saw, that you would have a plebiscite in mid-2009, and then a constitutional plebiscite in September 2009, so that by 2010, as she was pointing out,